Plastic is a huge part of everyday life. It's responsible for so many medical advancements, as well as a bunch of other things that can actually keep us really safe, such as car seats and bike helmets. Our problem is that we rely on plastic entirely too much. From items that we only use one time to things that could easily be made with any other material. Unlike natural materials, plastic just doesn't decompose. It actually degrades. So something like this turns into those dreaded microplastics we've been hearing all about. Microplastics are plastics that have degraded to the point or are smaller than 5 millimeters, which is about slightly smaller than the size of the top of this knitting needle. And when you consider that every piece of plastic ever created still exists today and is currently turning into these microplastics, we've got a big problem on our hands. And human consumption of microplastics isn't even the worst part. Most microplastics end up getting into our soil, our waterways, and our wonderful wildlife. Micro and macroplastics have been found in multiple marine animals' digestive systems, which can clog it up and can actually kill them. Another huge problem with the overconsumption of plastics, and especially single-use plastic, is how much or how little actually gets recycled. According to Yu Li et al., in an article written for the National Natural Foundation of China, written in 2023, only 9% of plastic is actually getting recycled. And that number is way too low. But if you clicked on this video, you probably know how bad our plastic problem is already. And you're probably looking for more ways to participate in Plastic-Free July other than using a reusable straw. And while that is a great choice and a wonderful place to start, it's a terrible place to stop. So without further ado, let's get into it. And yes, I'm still using a cup that I got for Christmas because cups don't stop working after the holidays. All right, so number one is one of the biggest ones, and it is refuse where you can. Now, obviously, we're all alive and we all need to use and consume some things to stay alive and also just to enjoy our lives and not have it suck. Refusing is actually one of the easiest things you can do because it requires you to do nothing. You don't have to buy anything or do anything fancy. And I know a lot of the times in an environmentalist community, you can see a lot of very pricey zero waste swaps. And while some of those are great to have, sometimes using nothing can be even better. Number two, limit your purchases of new synthetic clothing. So synthetic clothing such as polyester actually leaches microplastics into the environment over and over every time you wash it. And while there are bags and things you can do to try to stop this, but the making of a new garment and all of the things it takes to make something out of synthetic materials, or any new material really, is quite a big environmental impact. And I always advocate to try to find anything secondhand. I would especially say buy any polyesters, any different types of plastic fabric, because that's essentially what it is, secondhand. That way you are prolonging something's life and keeping it out of the landfill while also making really good use of it and making sure that there's no demand for new materials. This leads beautifully into my next point, which is number three, shop secondhand first. And when you're thinking, well, what does that mean? If you have an item that you need, it is likely almost certain that you can find it used, or even that someone bought and it maybe has used once or not at all. Always looking at secondhand first is a wonderful practice to adopt because even if you have a 75% success rate, that is still 75% less things that need to be created, and the demand for them is just diminished a little bit. I also want to add on that if something is medically necessary or you have already been searching at a thrift store for a long time and you have not found it, then obviously buy new and try to buy it from better companies. And I know medically, you don't really get a choice with, better or worse. You're trying to stay alive, and that is the most important thing you could do, is stay alive. So don't feel bad if you need to. Buy anything that is plastic or not secondhand and it is medically necessary. Please, you have every environmentalist blessing, do it. If you were to make any change to limit plastic, this would probably be within the top 10, maybe even top 3 that you could do, which is to cut out or reduce your fish consumption as much as possible. It is an absolute nightmare. According to multiple studies that I have linked below, the fishing industry accounts for 40 to 80% of the plastic in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, not the ocean. Sorry, guys. At best, less than half. And at worst, almost all of it. Things like fishing nets and other fishing supplies that have been used way too much have clogged up the oceans and are killing our wildlife, as well as getting into our water supply and getting microplastics in us, which is not good at all. While limiting seafood is definitely going to be different for people who enjoy it a lot, don't be afraid to reach out and try some plant-based dishes. And since I like to cook a lot and around half or more of this page is dedicated to that, I've got some ideas. So definitely stick around for those. Plastic is really hard to avoid, but if you were going to pick any place to avoid it, I would say the kitchen would probably be the most beneficial. Obviously, use what you already have, but when it is time to buy something else, consider swapping out for glass, metal, or even silicone. Try to do this as much as possible, and especially off of things that go in the dishwasher or get heavy scrubbing. And in the meantime, try not to dishwash the dishes that are made out of plastic, and try just using a very gentle rag on them and nothing abrasive so you don't get more microplastics. This is a great time to utilize those thrift stores as well as buy nothing groups. Try to make all new kitchen purchases, and obviously some appliances will come with plastic, but definitely try your best to buy any new purchases for your kitchen or things that you eat from plastic free. And if you can't do that at the moment, just try not to be abrasive or use anything abrasive when cleaning your plastic kitchenware, because that will just release more microplastics, and that is not good for the environment. Not only is this going to be good for the environment, but it's also going to save you a lot of money in the long run. Number 6, stop using Ziploc bags, especially for food. Ziploc bags are super flimsy, cheaply made, and you literally buy them to throw them out. The good news is you don't have to put your food in plastic to put it in the fridge. I got a bunch of these silicone bags secondhand. Very, very lucky, I know. I don't know how I found them like this. But if you can't find them secondhand, you could always buy them new. And if that's not in the budget, this is absolutely free. This was an old salsa jar, and I use it for leftovers every week, and you tend to collect these pretty fast, which means you can share them with others, bring them to your local farmer's market bulk store if you have one, or even put them on Facebook Marketplace or a Buy Nothing group when you have too many, because jars collect fast. But that means it's great because you never will have to buy another storage jar again. And if you're an avid canner or you just like the closed system on them, mason jars are a great plastic-free way to store food, especially the wide mouth ones. These are so easy to fill. Number 12, I have run out of fingers a while ago, but number 12, which is try to see if you have any sort of farmer's market or bulk store. And I know not everyone has that. I know like half the country probably only has like a Dollar General near them or something. maybe that. So don't take this one too seriously if you don't have that. But try your best, especially if you have one near you. There is no harm in going and seeing if you like it and trying it out, giving it a fair chance. And if you don't have one near you, other things you can do is try buying in paper, try buying in recyclable plastic, even though a lot of it doesn't get recycled, it's still better than styrofoam. And also try to buy the biggest package of something that you can if you know that you'll use it. Because then it will be only one package versus maybe like 5 packages. But be sure that you know you're gonna use it. As well, in the same sentence, online shopping for bulk ingredients you know you'll use is a great idea. That way, if you don't live near a grocery store that has any of those options, you can still get something with the least amount of packaging possible. Number 13, and this one again is about health, and you would want to install an air filter that filters out microplastics, as well as a water filter. And those laundry bags that keep the microplastics in the bag kind of run in the same circle as these two. But definitely not breathing them or drinking them in is gonna be much better than breathing or drinking them in. Number 14, be picky about chewing gum. And that sounds a little weird, but most chewing gum, not all, but most chewing gum is actually made out of plastic. So research and find some plastic-free chewing gum that you like, or just don't chew it. Number 15 doesn't apply to everyone, and it actually doesn't apply to me that much since I live out in a more rural area and it's not very walkable. But try to walk, bike, or use public transit or even carpool as much as possible. And if this doesn't work for you, that is definitely okay. I would say if you can't, at least try to get all of your errands done on one day and try to get it so where they're the least miles apart. But if not, then definitely make use of your walking, your biking, or your public transit. Number 16, use biodegradable non-plastic glitter or cut it out entirely. So traditional glitter is made out of plastic and it is just microplastics. Do not throw glitter, confetti, anything made out of plastic just into the air for weddings. And if you can find some fair trade and humanely made non-plastic glitter and it is something that brings you a lot of joy, then definitely use that. But in all other cases, and especially with traditional glitter, just don't use it. It's okay. Just don't use plastic glitter. Number 17, use bars over bottles whenever possible. I've been using a bar soap for about 5 years now. It's unscented, palm oil free. It's a Castile soap, and I use a natural loofah with it, as well as using a laundry powder in a cardboard box, as well as using powdered dish detergent. Using powder and bars is so much better because it doesn't create the same level of needless plastic bottles used over and over again. And detergent bottles can actually not be recycled or reused because of the detergent and the chemicals inside of it. Plastic detergent bottles are always seen in these kind of upcycling things, but you definitely don't want to put anything in them like plants or anything that you may eat in the future because the detergent chemicals are still in the plastic and that's not good for you. It's basically like the light version of eating a Tide Pod, and we all saw how that went. So I know I said I was only going to be doing 15 in the title, but I decided to give you guys a few extra, and I could be here all day numbering these out, but I don't want this video to end up being like 3 hours long, so I'm gonna end it here, and I might do a part 2 of just ways to kind of reduce plastic in your life if you guys want that. Please definitely let me know your thoughts, as well as other things that you think would be good to have a more plastic-free life. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I definitely appreciate you guys kind of giving me the patience to test out more of this, as it is something I'm super passionate about and want to share. So once again, thank you, and I hope you have a day just as beautiful as you are.